With excitement, allow me to introduce to you today's guest, executive chef and proprietor of Daisies, Chef Joe Frillman. My man Joe, are you feeling unstoppable today?
We are absolutely feeling unstoppable today, yes.
Glad to hear it, man. Thank you so much for making time for us today. I heard such great things about you and what you're doing here. In the 1 hour I had to really dive deep into your story. I love your pedigree. I love the journey you took to get here. I love the values you've injected into your business, especially with the 25% service charge. I'm hoping we can talk about that.
Yeah, for sure.
I love what's happening here. But before we dive into who you are, into how you got to where you are today, let's get that motivational, inspirational, ball rolling with a success quote or mantra. What do you got for us?
Oh, man, since culinary school, I'll never forget it. This one culinary school teacher, he really hammered it into us. And if you're not having fun, you should be doing something else. Ooh. And that's it. And that's basically what it boils down to.
It's so important. Why is that so important?
I mean, every industry has their own challenges. The restaurant industry particularly is a hard grind, a daily grind. And if you are not truly enjoying what you're doing, if you're not making it so that you're showing up, it's still work no matter what. And if you're not showing up to work with some sort of gusto, some sort of, I really live this, breathe this, and enjoying yourself, what is the point of doing any of this?
Yeah.
Because to be honest with you, you're not getting rich. You're missing your family. You're missing your friends. You're missing your life. I have basically taken and created my life around work, and because I enjoy it so much. Yeah. And if you don't dive in, there's so many other better ways to spend your time if you're not enjoying what you're doing.
Yeah.
And I've always been that person. You want something, you got to go get it. And
I think there's a two-pronged lesson here too, from your perspective, from the student perspective. Go find that person.
Absolutely.
And ask the questions. People in this industry are passionate about it just like you are.
Oh yeah.
And when they see your passion, it reignites the passion for them too. And beyond that, I think the other lesson is, if you're listening to this and you're in this role of mentorship, and if you have people that are coming up to you asking you questions, take the time to give the answer.
Oh yeah.
Be the mentor.
Well,
right?
You never know where that's gonna end up. Because
what are the systems most restaurants that fail miss?
Well, inventory, I think, is we have a system for inventory. We have an accounting system. We have an AP. Like, invoices have to come in.
Accounts payable.
They have to be paid.
Yeah.
We have who's doing payroll. What is the accounting system that you're using in general? Is it QuickBooks? Is it piece of paper? Is it Excel?
Yeah.
Like, when we first started this restaurant, we didn't have any subscriptions, services. It was an Excel sheet. And it was built by me, and it was like, I'm going to teach this to whoever's going to hopefully do it. But running through the restaurant, it was really hard to keep those systems organized, because it's kind of from scratch.
You doing it, right?
Exactly.
Yeah.
And then what I realized was, like, I created these awesome systems, and yay for me, I did it.
Yeah.
But no one else knows my systems because it's all in my head. It wasn't this, like, structured. It wasn't, because I'm the one doing it, and unless you're actually standing next to me and I'm ripping you through and showing you exactly how to do every single thing that I do, it wasn't the same. So that's when we actually started going out and using some of these other.
How'd you prioritize that? Which systems to outsource?
Whatever it's all just been a growth process of, like, hey, I don't have the time to do. It would start suffering. That part of the business would start suffering.
Wherever the most pain was.
Yes. Because you're onto something else. And whether that was staffing issues that necessitated me to be pulled in a different direction, I think getting to the point where we were able to actually, we opened the restaurant with the chef de cuisine. His name is David Chapman. He's amazing. He's not here anymore, but we didn't have the resources and money to continue his progress. So it was, he was the chef de cuisine, but he never actually got to do that role, right? Lasting, this is our 5th year now. And I think I feel like we're just getting started. And that's just not, like, the amount of growth and the amount of, especially with COVID and the amount of bullshit that we just went through. I finally feel like the public, the general public, the city knows we're here, and now comes enough to frequent us, to have enough revenue to allow us to grow and put people in those positions to actually do their jobs, where someone can actually go back and check the checklist.
Yeah.
Before it was like, yeah, these things are here. And if I was working the station, I wouldn't do any checklist because it was my systems and I knew exactly what I'd do. That's setting a terrible example, one, for everyone else.
I do want to make sure we talk about your choice to. Did you open with the service charge, or did this come later?
It came later.
Okay.
It came after COVID, and it had to because during COVID, everybody's jobs kind of changed.
Yeah.
We have we basically said, hey, if initially everyone was sent home, including myself, just go home, we'll figure it out. We had a month, restaurant closed for a month. When we reopened, the city's restrictions here in Chicago was like, capacity restrictions, distance restrictions. We're a 60-seat restaurant. We're 1,000 square feet, and we pack people in here, right? And so COVID was not great for our business model. People eating basically 6 inches from each other wasn't possible anymore at that time. And so
you lost half your volume, if not more.
Oh, at least. We had, when we were able to open with restrictions, we had 12 tables in here. We have 32 tables. So we didn't even have half of our tables because of the distancing restrictions. So servers, everybody kind of went their own ways. The people, we reached out to everybody and said, hey, look, we just want to know what your intentions are. A lot of people went home, whether that was the coasts or wherever they were from. But then the people who stayed, you're not just a server anymore. You're working a grocery. We pivoted all these different ways. We're a grocery store. We're answering phones. You're answering phones. You're a food runner. You're a cook. You're a dishwasher. Your job that you used to do is not only
legally. I can't let you take tips.
Correct. And so we had to kind of, get creative with. There was times when it was just salary employees working. They're not allowed to legally take tips.
Exactly.
And so what are you supposed to do? So we basically, that was part of the reason. The other reason is that it takes away the power of the guests could potentially have over that individual at the table. It shifts the power dynamic, and it doesn't allow people to potentially abuse the situation.
I think this is more significant if you have a bar. And we actually talked about this recently. I had Edward Slingerland on the show, the author of Drunk. And that's an excellent book if you are serving alcohol. I think everybody should know the history of alcohol and our relationship to alcohol over time. And I'm not talking about like 400 years ago. I'm talking like 10,000 years ago. It's a fascinating book. But he talks about like how we need to do away with tipping culture, because when a bartender is making the decision of like, should I give them one more drink? And they know that patrons holds the bartender's livelihood in their hands. Yeah. Like they're going to be more likely to serve that extra drink because they want to get a good tip.
Absolutely.
So, I mean, I think that I really do think that we need to have this conversation of like, do we need to just 86 tipping culture?
I mean, my vote is yes. It's also, I think it makes it so that, one of our big focuses, that missions, if you will, is to kind of get around changing the job and what would it be? What the service industry traditionally is looked at in a lot of places is like a transitionary job. It's not a career. Mm-hmm. It's a place where you're going to
get to the next place
for now, or learn the next thing. And so I think just like the way I look at it is like, just like any other service related industry, whether it's a plumber coming to fix your pipes, or that person, as soon as they leave their facility, they charge you a fee to come to the restaurant. There's a service fee that's involved. And I think we looked at it from the perspective of like, we are providing a service, and if you don't want that service, you can take that food to go and you don't necessarily have to pay that service fee. If you sit down and we're going to actually take care of you, we want that service charge is going to be applied to the bill. And I think that for us was, it changes people's thought process around, hey man, this is a career potentially. This person, this is what they do. This is why they're here. It's not, hey, I'm an actor, or I'm learning this other thing outside of work. A lot of the people that I've been working with, we've been working with the guy who makes my pasta for 15 years. The people who are in the front, we've got maybe a third of the staff's been with us almost since day one here. And we're trying to create careers for these people as opposed to just stepping stones in their jobs for other things. I think from my perspective, it was a way to take it a little bit more seriously as well. Of like, we also, in my opinion, we provide great service.
Yeah.
And we make sure we do everything we can to do that. Do we always do that? Absolutely not. No one is perfect, and we will miss the mark, and we want you to say something, and we will adjust that. But it's also subjective, and people, different experiences. I can't, like, I can't affect the mood that you came into the restaurant with. If you're in a shitty mood that day, and no matter what we do, it's going to be really hard to turn that around. And then that person's tip's possibly going to be affected by that. Mm-hmm. That's not fair from my perspective.
No.
We provided you the service. We went above and beyond. We did everything we possibly could to make sure you had a great time.
So what needs to happen for the collective industry to go, okay, we're done?
Oh, man,
we're done with tips. Let's just, I don't want to say anything. I want to hear if you have a.
Well, there's groups that lobby for these things, and there's a lot of politics behind it. Nothing's going to change until some of that is addressed. I'll say that.
I will say we do live in very exciting times where when we're more connected than ever before, we're also more disconnected than ever before. But I think a great byproduct of being connected is that information travels faster than ever before.
Yeah.
And if there's a good enough movement happening, it can touch everybody in every corner, every nook, every cranny of this country overnight.
Yeah.
And that's the cool thing. So if the message is strong enough, if the information's there, I think we can cultural transformation is exponential. Yeah. If you don't believe me, look how fast straws disappeared after there was a turtle on land with a straw in its nose. Like overnight.
Yep.
And it's just proof that if we can deliver the message and we can hit a vein, we can make change happen overnight. But we need to start sharing perspective. And that's a big part of what I'm trying to do with this podcast is to give a voice to leaders to not only share knowledge, but to evoke evolution and change and transformation in the industry, to move in a better, more holistic place.
It allows us to distribute the service charge to everyone in the restaurant as opposed to just the person who's taking your table as well.
Yeah.
Somebody who comes from a kitchen, we were never tipped out.
It serves a lot of problems.
It solves a lot of problems.
Yeah.
It allows us to pay the people who work in the kitchen a much higher wage, a much higher wage than we were able to do previously. It also allows, the service staff to make a very still a very good rate from an hourly perspective. They basically are still in charge of there's a lot of different ways to do it. The way we do it is basically the bill is service charge is applied. We pay sales tax on that.
For the record, it has to be on the bill.
Has to be on the bill.
Just so you guys know, you can't, you have to factor in. I think that's a legal thing. There has to be a service charge in order for this to work. Just to protect yourself.
Correct.
If you're thinking about
well, and first and foremost, everyone in the restaurant has to be making at least minimum wage. And that's one of the, so like with a tip credit, you can legally pay your service staff who's touching the table, you can pay them sub minimum wage. And I think I don't even know what the federal is right now. It's like $2.50. You're telling me you can pay your employee $2.50 and the rest of it is made up by the tips. And those tips are dependent on the customers who are coming in, the mood that they're in. And it's just, come on. Yeah. So, and then there's a credit given back by the government for taxes at the end of the year. So they get, you basically get a credit. We lose all that with this. This costs us money to do it this way. So you got to be prepared to that. Have the legal conversations that you have to have, depending on your state, your jurisdiction, et ceta. City, they all have different.
Your state restaurant association.
They all have different stuff. And ironically, those establishments are fighting these types of things too.
Well, because I hesitated to say that. But they're not in this game for this independent operator.
They're not.
No.
And
they're lobbying for the big companies.
They are. And we careful what I say, but at the same time,
I won't.
They're not in our, they're not necessarily, as much as they say they're have our best interests, and they've helped definitely with things that we need, especially with COVID and all these things. But there's also a better way to do things, and if until those bodies get behind this, they're not for the independent operator right now.
Great takeaways from our man, Chef Joe Frillman today. Just hustling early in your career, being willing to sacrifice early in your career, maybe taking a step back or a step to the side to have a higher ceiling to go further, and surrounding yourself with those people who will be willing to mentor you and also open their network to you. It's so important that you surround yourself with the right people, and then when it's your turn to take care of the next generation, just that culture of paying it forward, creating opportunities for others, educating people, and also I love what they're doing with a 25% service charge. I really do think that that's going to solve a lot of issues with our industry right now, moving better intentionally into a better future. That's one thing I think we can all start doing, and the sooner we all hop on that bandwagon, the faster things will move. Very inspirational, awesome stuff. Thank you, Chef Joe